Welcome, Georgia PRSSA chapters, to our first annual virtual job market workshop. My name is Amanda Weed. I am the co-chair of PRSA Georgia's College Relations Committee, and I am also the faculty advisor for Kennesaw PRSSA at Kennesaw State University. So our particular presentation today is going to be about preparing for the job market. Some of you might be coming up on graduation. Some of you might be looking for internships. So this presentation is going to be for you all to help put your best foot forward in making that right impression with potential employers. I am very happy to say that we have 3 PRSSA chapters in Georgia collaborating on this presentation. We have Georgia Southern PRSSA, the University of Georgia PRSSA, and Kennesaw PRSSA. So I wanted to do a quick introduction with our presenters for today who have graciously given their time. Georgia Southern, could you introduce who's going to be making today's presentations?
Hi, I'm Emily. I'm the president of our Georgia Southern chapter, and I'll be talking today on behalf of our chapter.
Fantastic. Thank you, Emily. And our UGA PRSSA chapter.
Hi, I'm Dolores. I'm our current digital media director.
Hey, I'm Sarah, and I am our director of internal communication.
And I'm Taylor, and I'm the director of member relations. Thank you so much for having us.
Oh, thank you for being here. And our president of Kennesaw PRSSA, Ashlyn Lindsay, will be presenting our final topic for today. She is actually at her internship right now. She will be joining us just a little bit later. And then we also have members of PRSA Georgia who will be making a presentation at the end of this session about how PRSA Georgia can help you launch your career in the PR industry. Without further ado, I am going to hand things off to Georgia PRSSA for their presentation on best practices for resume design.
Alrighty. Hey guys, as I said before, I'm Emily. I'm the president of Georgia Southern PRSSA chapter. Today, I'm just going to talk a little bit about building a better resume and what you can do to really make yourself stand out. So there's a couple of design basics. Just with any resume that you do, you're going to want to try and keep it to one page. There's a stat online and it said that the average person that's interviewing you only looks at a resume for 6 to 7 seconds. And that does not sound like a lot of time to really make a good impression. They're just looking for the key points. And so they're not going to want to flip through multiple pages of resumes and all the clutter. Also, keep it consistent. Use the same font throughout. Whichever font you choose, just keep it simple. Your headings need to be 14 or 16 point and bold because, like I said, they only look for about 6 to 7 seconds. So you're going to want your headings to stand out so that they can see everything that you've done so that your experience is more visible. And it doesn't just blend in with the rest of whatever's on your resume. Also, your text should be no smaller than a 10 point. That's just for easy readability, whether it's you're submitting it online or on paper. It needs to be legible. And save the file with your last name. As we're seeing today, there's a couple Emily's on the chat. So if you just say Emily, they're not going to know which one you're talking about. So if you state it with your last name, you're more likely to be remembered. How do I get rid of this? Can I get rid of this or no? Sorry, I'm trying to get rid of this. I don't know how to do that. We're just going to ignore it. So there's two main types of resumes, and there's traditional and creative. And so we're going to talk a little bit about which one is right for which situation and which one you think will be a best fit for your job that you're applying to. So this is an example of a traditional resume. This is the most commonly used resume. You'll probably see this in most of your classes. It's also the easiest to do. It includes chronological, skill-based, and combination resumes. Chronological is basically it's chronological. It's all your experience in order from most recent to least recent, whether it's relevant to the job you're applying to or not. And skill-based is kind of the opposite. You use whatever your most recent, or not recent, I'm sorry, whatever your most relevant experience is will go at the top, that stands out the most. And then you go based off of that, what highlights your skill set the most. And combination is kind of a combination of both, where you put your skill set at the top, but also if your skill set is from high school, it might not be as relevant. So you kind of give and take a little bit between both of them. And there are the suggestion used to be only use a sans serif font. This is the one with no feet. But now we're starting to see serif and serif and sans serif fonts. And you'll see on the example that's actually a serif font, that's Times New Roman. So whichever font you decide to use, it will be okay as long as it's legible and you keep it consistent. And traditional resumes are usually very minimalistic. They're clean, balanced white space, and they usually don't have color. If there is color, it'll likely just be your personal logo if you choose to put that on there, but you're not going to print off a traditional resume on hot pink paper. That's just unheard of. And here's two more examples. You can see this one, it kind of does little pictures next to what it is, like phone number. You don't have to do that, but it's a nice touch that separates each spot. Each section is more separated. So I'll let y'all look at those. Any questions so far on the traditional resume? Alrighty, then we'll go into the creative one. As you can see, this is a big difference compared to what we just looked at. It is very colorful. Some might say that's actually hard to read. I know it's not the easiest because the dark background with the white words. But these can be a great way to highlight your creativity. However, it does not work for every field. If you're applying to be a lawyer and it's very strict business, you might not want to use a creative resume because that's not what they're looking for. It usually works well for graphics and design and visual arts design jobs. But really, you need to look at the job that you're applying for and see what their requirements are. If they're asking you to do design things, then this might be a good option for you. But if they're asking you for just strictly writing and press releases, you might want to reconsider. Also, if the company is using an application tracking system or ATS, do not use a creative resume. That's like if you turn it in via LinkedIn or you're submitting through Indeed, something like that. Those sites typically use an ATS. And basically what that is it automatically filters through the resumes and it says, oh, okay, this person has this listed, and so we're going to recommend them for this job. And if you do a creative resume, it might not necessarily read your resume correctly. So you might have all the correct experience listed, but the ATS will not pick up on that. And so your resume is going to get lost. So not the best option. And here's just 3 more examples to show what a variety you can really do with a creative resume. This one almost looks like a menu, and he has his fingerprints. I'm not sure why, but he really got creative with that one. You can see he even has his blood type. Don't put that on your resume. People don't care. This one almost looks like an infographic. It's got some different colors, and some people might like this, some people might not. So that's the chance you take with a creative resume. You might really stand out to one person, but you might, like, another audience might not be as attracted to that. And here's one just a little bit more simple, work experience in education, who he is, and half of his face, which is interesting, but that's what he wanted to do. So what do you include in your resume? You're gonna want your full legal name. So that is just, for simple professional terms, use your legal name up top. But if, say your name is Jennifer, but you go by Jen, you're gonna wanna use this format, your full name so that they have it, and then you can put what you go by and then last name. And then you're gonna want your contact info, because if you can be the best candidate, but if they can't talk to you, then oops. So you're gonna want your email address, one that's appropriate, yes. No more Hotmails and things like that. Your phone number, and keep in mind that if you put your phone number on a resume, you should be expecting a call. So if somebody calls you and it's out of the state, maybe it's a number you don't recognize, you're gonna want to answer it even if it is spam. And social media handles. This is like your LinkedIn, your Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, if it is appropriate. I know we all post our bikini pictures, but your job might not want to see that. So if it's your Instagram, make it private, but keep in mind that screenshots are a thing, and screenshots can ruin your career. So just be safe with your social media and only list those handles if it is appropriate. But I highly recommend doing at least your LinkedIn if you're active on that and keeping it updated. And you're gonna want your relevant experience, and just list these things. If the experience isn't really relevant, you don't really need to include it, then it's just fluff taking up space on the page. And that can actually distract from your other experience that is relevant. You're gonna want your education. They want to know that you're qualified. So people, honestly, they don't really care about high school unless it was just something crazy above and beyond that's one in a lifetime. Usually you don't include high school. Your GPA, if it's 3.5 or above, if it's not, don't embarrass yourself, leave it off. And only for the first 6 months after graduation. So like right now we can all put it on, but once we start to get into the real world and get our big kid jobs, that's the experience we're going to want to emphasize, not necessarily our GPA. And just anything else you did. If you studied abroad, that'll make you stand out for sure. Any skills certifications you have, I know a lot of us do Hootsuite certifications, so that's a great thing to list. Any relevant awards or honors. You know, if you got a biology award, that's cool, but is it relevant to the job you're applying for? Just keep that in mind. And any memberships, so like PRSA, this is a great thing to put on your resume. If you're on the board, that's even better. Make sure you list that. And when you're active, put the dates on there so they know that, oh, she was a member for multiple years. She was consistent. She cared about it. And that'll make you stand out. And this is optional to include. You can link your LinkedIn or your online portfolio if it's updated. And what includes these stories? Oh, yes, with your contact information at the top of the resume. Any questions so far? All right. So the 3 C's, this thing is bothering me. Don't know what to do. Yeah. Oh, really? Okay, cool. Sorry, there's a little box on my screen. The 3 C's, you want to be clear, concise, and custom. And I'm going to explain to you what those mean. So clearly state what your experience is. You know, it's not a first date. You're not trying to tease them. You want them to know exactly what you want. They need to know your intention. Use action words. You achieved something. You designed something. It shows that you did something. You can say you just worked at the cash register. Cool, but what did you do? Think beyond your assigned duties. If you just list, if you list the duties that they told you to do, then congrats, you did your job. You cool beans. But what did you do to go above and beyond, and how did you contribute more to the company to help them grow? Actions and results will stand out. So you need to clearly state how you helped the company. And don't be afraid to use stats and numbers. Say, instead of I worked the cash register, say I improved our drive-through efficiency by 5 minutes during rush hour. That is what's going to grab their attention instead of, oh, they stood there and took money at a cash register. You want to be concise. Be blunt about what you want to say. Like I said, the average interviewer only looks at a resume for 6 to 7 seconds. So they don't want to get lost in the fluff. Keep it simple. Keep it at 1 page. Some exceptions, like if you have extensive work career or highly applicable work experience. But for the most part, really try and keep it at 1 page, because they're not going to want to flip back and forth searching for something you talked about at the bottom of page 2 under subsection C. That's not a thing people want. And only include your recent and relevant experience. Like I said, just if it's not recent or relevant, then you don't need it. And consider focusing on 3 to 4 main experiences that you have. Those, just pick 3 to 4 and really emphasize those and how you stood out in those roles. You can list 7 to 8 experiences and they're going to say, wow, you were really involved. But were you really? Because if you did 7 to 8 things and it only lasted 2 months at each place, were you really committed? Did you really make a difference? So focusing on 3 to 4 things could make you stand out better than 7 to 8. Less is sometimes more on a resume. And make it custom. Every job you're applying to is different, so you need to appeal to that job. So customize it. McDonald's might have been your last job, but is that relevant to the job you're currently applying for? So unless you had a leadership role or recognition for outstanding customer service, it's likely not relevant to a PR job or a PR resume. Because I mean, it's McDonald's. How much PR would you do at McDonald's? And this is just my personal recommendation. I have one long resume, and that just has all of my experience listed from high school to forever. And I keep that one updated. But I don't ever submit that one. That one is just for my personal use so that I have track of all of my experiences. And then I have one shorter, more specific resume, and that's the one that gets edited. So for whichever job I'm applying to, I keep that one updated. And like I said, only include relevant information. So how do you know what's relevant? Stalk them, not in a creepy way, but see what they want. Go on their website, reread their job description, see what action words they use. What are they looking for? What do they value? Look for their company motto. If they say we're looking for a team player that can come and hang out and be a part of our softball team on the weekends, you're going to want to emphasize that you are a team player and that you're willing to do what the team needs. However, if they say that they're looking for someone that they can give a job to with little to no overhead, and they can get a job done by themselves without having to have their hand held, then you're going to want to emphasize that you're independent, that you can do work on your own, that you don't need, you can be a part of a team, but you don't need to have your hand held the whole way. So see what they're looking for and customize it to them. And this will be different for every job that you apply to. So make sure you're reading all of their social medias, their websites, their job descriptions, all of that. Include references. You can say how great you are, but until they hear it from somebody else, why should they believe you? So yes, place them in a separate document, not on your resume, but also make sure you tell the people that you list as a reference, because they need to be okay with that, and they should also be expecting a call. Send the person that you list as a reference, send them your resume so they're familiar with what you've done, and then they can really talk highly about you. But also tell them in advance, so if they say no, they don't just get a random call and then talk bad about you, because then you would look even worse. There are some people who do not want to be listed as a reference, and that's okay, but you need to know that ahead of time. So in conclusion, traditional resumes are typically a safer option. You can use a creative resume to highlight your creativeness, but it's not ideal for most positions. So just make sure you're doing your research to make sure that that would be an okay fit. Clearly state what you want and say it using action words. Say how you contributed and what you're doing. Focus on 3 to 4 relevant experiences. You don't need to clutter it. Like I said, sometimes less is more. And don't exceed 1 page unless it's absolutely necessary. Like I said, they don't want to be flipping back and forth. And stalk the company, not in a creepy way, but stalk them to customize your application to get what they want. Any questions? Check the chat. I can't see the chat. Oh, great recommendation. Thank you. Any questions? I can't see y'all. Any questions here? All righty. Well, I think that is my time. So I will hand it over.
Thank you so much, Emily. That was a fantastic presentation. And I cannot agree more with the stock, the companies that you're applying with. Don't do it in a creepy way, but knowing who your audience is. This is something that we learn as PR students to do that for clients, but we should also be doing that for ourselves when we're looking to land our first job and moving up in our careers. So definitely follow people on social media, follow the companies on their website if they have a blog, social media networks, LinkedIn, because that's going to give you insight into what's important to those companies, specific projects that you're working on. When you go in, exhibiting that you are knowledgeable about the company, that is going to create a fantastic impression for you. So that was, all of the presentation was great, but that was a really spot on recommendation. So we are going to switch over to UGA, PRSSA now, who is going to present about nailing that job interview.
Hi, okay, let me share my screen. Oop. Spoiler alert, sorry guys. So we are going to be talking about nailing the job interview in 10 steps today. Again, my name is Dolores. I am the digital media director for our UGA chapter. I am a third-year PR student, and one fun fact about me is that I actually lived in Germany for 4 years and I speak 4 languages.
And my name is Taylor. Again, I'm the Director of Member Relations here for our chapter. I am a third-year public relations major, and I'm minoring in Spanish and business. And a fun fact about me is I am on the dance team here.
Hey guys, once again, my name is Sarah. I'm a third-year PR major here at UGA with certificates in public affairs and new media. And a fun fact about me, I've performed at Carnegie Hall in New York. So,
Oh my God, that's so we have a celebrity in our presence, guys. So an introduction. As we all know, we are in the thick of internship season. Interviews are starting up. It's important to kind of practice and make sure that you're ready to nail that job interview. So let's get right into it. Step 1. So put yourself in the mind space. You just got an email. You are fully, you just got an email, you got an interview. You had applied for the internship, your dream internship, and you're regularly checking your email and LinkedIn messages to make sure that you know as soon as the company has reached out to you and let you know that you have received an interview. So the most important thing to do is respond promptly. Make sure you're reading the entire interview and making sure that all of the instructions they're giving you, you're following. So schedule that interview as soon as you can, and express gratitude. Use a really professional tone and make sure that they know that you are very grateful for their time. And yeah.
So just to build off of that really quick, when you schedule your interview, make sure you provide them with a wide range of times that you're available. So if they say, what's your availability in the next week? Give them a section of time for every single day. So that way they can, work themselves into your schedule.
So step 2, picking out an outfit. This can be often a daunting pursuit, and I know that it takes me a very, very long time to pick what I'm wearing. I always feel like I do the best when I have a good outfit. So make sure that you're understanding the culture of the company that you're interviewing with. So whether they're more of a casual place or more of a professional place, make sure that you are, of course, being professional, but also fitting the vibe kind of the company. It's really important that you look clean and presentable. It's your first interview. It's your first opportunity to show them who you are. So you really want to make that good first impression and lasting impression. Shoes are a super, super important thing. If you're going in person, make sure that you're wearing comfortable shoes and clothing so that you feel good about yourself. I always want to pick an outfit that makes me feel good about myself so that I can give the best answers and make sure that I'm feeling comfortable in an already kind of uncomfortable setting. And make sure that even if you're going on Zoom, you're 100% fully clothed and dressed. Like, don't wear sweatpants on the bottom just because they might not see your sweatpants on camera. It doesn't mean you don't have to stand up. That's happened to me before. I've been in PRSA meetings and I stand up and I'm like, wow, I'm wearing a really nice shirt and sweatpants. You don't want to do that. You want to make sure that you are 100% fully prepared for anything that might happen. And just making sure that you're putting yourself in the best position and mind space for that interview.
yeah, and just to reemphasize what Dolores was saying, the job or internship you're applying for and the field that it's in is so important. I know last week I was interviewing for an internship in New York and it was more advocacy, corporate PR. So I wanted to look really business professional. But I have a friend who's also doing the New York program and she was applying for Glamour magazine. So she could be have a little bit more fun with her fashion as well. So just know what you're applying for and adjust from there.
So let's talk a little bit about business professional versus business casual. Business professional is going to be for your big corporations, places that you really want to dazzle. So some pictures here on the left are midi skirts, dress pants, really nice collared shirts and blazers. It's really important, again, that you understand who you're talking to. Like Amanda said before, knowing your audience and making sure you're fitting in with kind of the culture at the company that you're interviewing for. And then some pictures on the right are business casual. These include nicer jeans, sweater tops, and then maybe like a blazer over top. So just make sure, again, that you're feeling comfortable in what you're wearing something that is appropriate, and of course, looking clean and looking your best so that you can do your best at the interview. So step 3, as Emily said, stalk the company that you're going to be interviewing for. Researching is arguably the most important step out of all of these. So understand their values, know what they're looking for in an employer or in an employee. Make sure that you can also communicate to them that you know what they stand for and what they want. So communicate that you are what they want. Get familiar with their tone on social media, especially if you are applying to a social media position. Make sure that you know what kind of content they're putting out, what kind of new things they're exploring, and that way you can kind of weave that into your interview and again, show them that you know and you care about what they're doing. That'll really go a long way. They'll know that you care, they'll know that you're qualified, and that you're really excited for the position. Another thing to do is read their blog posts. You can also stay up to date on their current news and announcements. Make sure that you know what is going on in the company. Maybe they'll talk about it, maybe they'll ask you about it, but even if not, it's a good thing to just bring up something that you know, like out from outside. Again, showing your interest in the company and also that you're willing to go that extra step in your interview. If they're an agency, if you're applying for an agency, a PR agency, check out their client list. Talk about maybe some PR pushes that they've made with a certain client and how maybe you would have done it, or give some ideas that you have. Again, just really showing that you're going that extra step. And then follow them on LinkedIn. That's a really good way to kind of see not only what kind of employees they have, but also their tone. And that's how you can decide whether you're going to go business professional or business casual. Just make sure that you're knowing everything that there is to know out there about the company, showing them that you're interested, showing them that you're knowledgeable and that you know how to do your research, and just 100% ready for the interview.
Yeah, so once you've done your research, it's now time to practice. It's very important to, put your best foot forward in an interview. I would recommend holding mock interviews with people who you're comfortable with. That could be your family, your friends. I highly recommend having a mentor, and that can be great for doing mock interviews with you. Check out your university's career center. I actually linked here the Kennesaw and Georgia Southern career centers. And they have mock interview resources. Some of them are in person, and then some of them are virtual. That's something that's new. You can do virtual interview practice. Some examples include big interview and interview streams. So you can just, you set your camera up and you can, they'll give you practice questions, and they can assess, how fast you're talking, if you're looking into the camera, which is really important. So that's a really, really good resource. And I would say in your practice, prioritize getting comfortable just talking about yourself and your accomplishments. That's why, just doing it with friends and family can be a good icebreaker, because you're already comfortable talking with them. Because, you want your interview to feel like a conversation. I feel like all of my good interviews feel more conversational. I'm sure you guys would say the same thing. So just knowing everything that they might ask, and going back to Emily's presentation, that means knowing your resume inside and out. I go through every bullet point on my resume and just think of all the questions that they might ask, and being able to fully talk about every bullet point on there.
And just to build off of that too, I have 2 little points for the interviews, especially for me. I talk a lot with my hands when I get nervous. And so one thing that I definitely do is I go in front of a mirror and I speak to myself in the mirror. So that way I can be like, put your hands down, Taylor. And so that way I can see that I'm smiling, I'm engaged, and I'm also still practicing, but I get to see, what's from the other side. And then also knowing your resume inside and out is a very key point. I was in an interview recently and they brought up something that I had done like my freshman year in college. And if I hadn't known what I had done for that and known it pretty extensively, they probably would have been like, what are you talking about? Yeah. So definitely just like reviewing it, going over it. And like Emily was saying, also keep relevant experiences on there.
And just one more point. The point about talking about yourself, I know that I can get very awkward kind of trying to brag about myself, and that's not something that we necessarily teach children or young adults to do. So really make sure that it's not the first time that you're talking to talking about yourself and about your accomplishments to that employer. Make sure, like she said, either talk to a mirror or talk to a friend, because it can be really hard and uncomfortable, but I promise you that it's not as difficult as it may seem.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes just like say a little bit about yourself is harder than like any interview question you could ask.
Genuinely.
So okay, so it's interview day. You gotta be on time. And of course, being on time actually means being at least 10 minutes early. That'll show your professionalism to your employers. So, if you're in person, like I would have a plan of like where you're going, when you're leaving, just in case anything might go wrong. I'm very type A. I'm like always worried about like what could go wrong. So just have that plan of where you're going to go. Or if you're even on Zoom, log in early and be ready to go. That means checking your Wi-Fi, adjusting your lighting and Zoom background. You don't want to have anything distracting in the back. Turn on your camera and microphone. I would hate for you to go on for 5 minutes and no one could actually hear what you were saying. And I have a little example of this. It's more recent than I cared to admit, but I did an interview on Microsoft Teams and I didn't check my Wi-Fi properly. And I guess it just didn't agree with, where I was. So yeah, I got kicked out of that interview multiple times because my Wi-Fi was bad and I had a bunch of reverb when I was talking. So yeah, just fix all your technical difficulties in advance. Highly recommend that so you don't run into that situation. But yeah, paying attention to these little details, it'll just show that you're a professional and that you think ahead. And that can mean more than like any answer that you give. So
Just remember, if you're not early, you're late. So
Exactly.
just follow by that.
Yeah, and then once you're in your interview, there's a lot more to think about than just the answers that you give. My biggest piece of advice is just to stay engaged, and that can come a lot with body language. Maintain eye contact with who you're talking to that's just respectful, and it shows that you're really listening to them and you really care about what you're saying and what they're saying back to you. And on Zoom, that can mean like I'm staring at the green light up camera that is on my laptop right now, and that can sometimes be unnatural, especially when you have like the little, you can see yourself and you want to look at yourself, but you want to maintain eye contact. But also, make sure to stay positive, smile when you can, and just show that your employer that you're excited to be there and that you're excited about this potential internship or job. And check your posture. Again, that just shows that you're like actively engaged in what you're saying and that you're interested in what they have to say as well. And of course, actively listen to what your recruiter is saying. Don't just be thinking about what your next answer is going to be, because you can listen to what they have to say. You can bring it into your answers or into the questions that you will ask them at the end of the interview. So.
All right, step 7. I personally think this is probably one of the hardest questions.
Yeah.
And like we were saying earlier, tell me about yourself, because I could tell you a million things about myself and I don't know what you actually care about or what you want to hear. So definitely your recruiter has just read your resume. They definitely either have it right in front of them or right before the interview, they've looked through it. They want to know, your experience, showcase your personality, and articulate your future goals. So personally for me, I, of course, state, what I do at the University of Georgia, what my major is, what year I am, and then I'll usually talk about my leadership qualities. For example, I'm a captain on a dance team, or I'm the director of member relations for Prsa. And then I also tend to add something in there like I'm very adaptable and I love to build new relationships because I've moved 8 times. And that's something that's unique and stands out. So like I said, elaborate on your experience, but also find little ways to make yourself stand out and be unique against other applicants. And then of course, articulate your future goals. So where you see yourself in the future, how this job can be a stepping stone for that. And also how, your experience and your specific qualities apply to that role. And so that goes back into research, what the role entails. And, say if it's asking about social media, talk about how you were a social media chair or you developed graphics in this class. They really care about, what's going to pertain to the role. So make sure you mentioned that.
And going off of that, an interview is an opportunity for you to not just, it's to put a face to the name, right? So they look at your resume and you're just a piece of paper. You want to give them something to remember and something to really hold on to, and just show them your personality, show them how great you are and what a great candidate you all are. So yeah.
Okay, step 8. So this is something to what you can practice with in front of your mirror or with your friends. But these are some of the basic questions that you can prepare for in an interview. I feel like mainly a lot of our PR interviews at least start off with a lot of just getting to know you. So some general ones are, what are your strengths and weaknesses? Tell me about a time when you overcame a challenge, worked with a team. And then of course, your obvious, why are you interested in this company and role? Especially in today's day and age, prepare for post-pandemic related questions. I was in an interview the other day and they were asking me, given that you were virtual learning, how were you able to still communicate with a team and still do your group work, and talk about how you still initiated these group projects? Start, thinking about those two as we're kind of transitioning out of that. And then of course, also still think about some PR specific. What is your experience with social media, building a media list, writing a press release, both digital and traditional media, kind of, prepare for both. And then, if you don't have experience in either of those, you can always say, I'm just excited for this opportunity to gain that hands-on experience and be able to learn how to do exactly that through this internship.
Yeah, and I feel like employers look to our generation like to know how we interact with social media. So just be really aware of like how you use it, your experience with it, because sometimes they don't know anything about social media. So they're like, we're gonna, what are we, Gen Z?
Yeah.
Millennials and Gen Z, they depend on us to.
And speaking on like social media super quick, they
Yes.
also care, what other technical skills you have, such as, have you worked with Canva? Have you worked with Excel? Those type of things, because those are in design, all those Adobe platforms, just that they can utilize, because especially, because we're so young, they really do care about our experience in those specific industries. So adapting to the post-COVID workplace. So some more questions that they will probably ask you are, what is your vaccination status? And now, getting back into the workplace, whether it's hybrid style or if they want you to fully come back, a lot of times they'll ask you, what preferences, what benefits would you like when coming back into in person? So like what work environment do you work in the best? What's your work flexibility? What things that are important to you, wellness and technology benefits? And then of course, DEI related, what initiatives are they employing in their work environment? So those are definitely some things to consider, and how you should prepare for that, but also you prepare to respond to those questions, and then how you should prepare to ask them those questions. I was also asked in an interview, I think a lot of places are starting to go back in person, but I think a lot of places are also asking, are you comfortable coming in person and also staying on Zoom? Are you comfortable moving here, or would you rather, work in a hybrid environment? So just kind of knowing your preferences about what you want to do.
Going off of the DEI point, we recently had a DEI meeting with our Prsa chapter, and they really emphasized the idea that you can also ask them what their DEI initiatives are, if that's something that's super important to you. I know that I was the DEI chair for my sorority, and that's something that I'm very passionate about. So take this opportunity to also, they're interviewing you, but you're also interviewing them. You're trying to see if you're a good fit for that company, and if you want to work there. So just keep that in mind.
And then step 9, do you have any questions? Point blank period, the answer is yes. This automatically shows that you care and that you're interested. And even if you may not have a question, just come up with something on the spot. And this also goes back with staying engaged, because if you hear something that one of the recruiters asks you or talks to you about in their personal experience, you can kind of rewind and ask them to expand on that. So some of my favorite questions that I usually ask are, what's the company culture like? Can you describe your ideal candidate? How does your company support and promote diversity and equity, which I think is extremely important? And then my favorite question usually is, what is your favorite project or client that you've worked with in this company? And a lot of times employers are like taken back when somebody asks them a question. So it really shows, like I said, that you care, you've done your research, and you're invested. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
always ask questions.
And sorry.
No, it's okay.
And I think it just makes the interview experience more positive overall. Even if you don't get the job or internship, the recruiters can have amazing advice on, their careers and their experiences. So if you take the time to ask those questions, you can still get something out of the interview, even if it isn't the job.
An interview should be, I don't know if we've said this before, but it should be like a conversation. It should be a mutually beneficial thing. They're trying to get to know you, and you have just as much freedom to get to know them. So when they say, do you have any questions for us? This is your time to get more insight into what the company is like.
Also, it's another opportunity to forge a personal connection. Like Sarah said,
Mhm.
you can always get something out of it, even if it's just learning experience. If they don't pick you for this job, maybe they'll remember you for another job. And just make sure that you're showing your personality, being as professional and as nice as you can, so that they keep in the back of their minds, oh my God, this is a great candidate for so-and-so position.
And then our final step is following up post-interview. So this will really make yourself memorable. And this kind of, again, is rewinding back to being prompt. So post-interview, make sure you email your recruiter or hiring manager, whoever you spoke with. And I gave a little blip of something you can kind of base off an example, but basically just thanking them for their time and consideration for you filling this role, and that you look forward and you're eager for the next steps in the application process. Like I said before, just as you asking those questions, following up shows that you're invested and you care and you hope to hear back from them. And even if there is a rejection that potentially may come from it, still thank them for their time and consideration, because you never know what might happen in the future. And that, especially when you connect with them on LinkedIn, you do have that personal connection and you can reach out to them in the future. You don't want to leave a bad taste in their mouth. Like I said, for connecting with LinkedIn and social media, that just offers a new gateway to, talk to them and ask about their experience. And also, if you hadn't before, find other employees that, have mutual friends, mutual connections, I guess that's what they're called on LinkedIn. And, DM them, I guess, or message them and say, I'm interested about hearing your experience. Would you have time to call? And again, that just offers you another little entryway into what it's like in that company.
All right. Does anybody have any questions for us? Okay. Well, thank you guys so much.
Thank you all so much.
Another set of amazing recommendations. Thank you so much. And I just wanted to add one little thing on top of your last step with reaching out and thanking the hiring manager or whoever you interviewed with. It's a little bit awkward right now because we're still kind of in this, are we in a post-COVID world yet, or are we not? So some offices are still virtual, others are not. But if you do interview in person at an office, I would strongly recommend to you, take it a step further than an email. Thank you. Write out a handwritten thank you note and have that ready to go. Take it with you to the interview, drop it in the mailbox that is nearest to the building that you're at, because that will swing it around really quickly to you. And handwritten thank you notes are truly becoming a lost art. And that's something that really shows that you have put care into thanking a hiring manager for their time. So something just to keep in mind with that, and great recommendations for staying connected even after the interview, because even if it doesn't work out this time for a particular job, you have already gotten your foot in the door. People know you, and that can help put you at the top of the list for the next position that may be an even better fit, or they may end up recommending you to a colleague that works in another company. So really fantastic suggestions. Thank you so much. Next up, we have Kennesaw PRSSA, and Ashlyn Lindsay, president, is going to be discussing how to build your personal brand.
All right, well, hello everyone. I'm Ashlyn Lindsay. Like Amanda said, I'm president of Kennesaw PRSSA. I'm a senior, so I graduate in just a few weeks. I'm a public relations major and I have a minor in engagement marketing. So I'm going to share my screen really quick so I can get this going. Okay, sweet. Can y'all see my screen? Okay, sweet. Thanks, guys. Okay, so, oh, it won't let me click forward. That's great. All right. So to start off, what is a personal brand for those of you who don't know? And essentially, it's what people think and say about you. So just like a brand for a company, same thing, but a brand for you personally. And with your personal brand, you want to accurately represent who you are to differentiate yourself from others. And this can come in handy when job hunting and doing an interview like UGA was just talking about. So you stand out from the other applicants. And so why should you care about your personal brand? Because it encompasses who you are and what you bring to the table professionally. And doing this and solidifying your personal brand can help you make professional connections that lead to opportunities. And that may not be immediately like an immediate job opportunity, but it could be a connection you make at some point during your college career. And then when you're graduating, they might have an opportunity for you if you stay connected and engaged with them, which we'll also talk about in a bit. Because sometimes the best job opportunities come from a personal connection, and you get those from having a solid personal brand. And for those of you that have an interest in working freelance, whether while you're in school or, after you graduate, it can help you land clients because people want to work with those that they can identify with and relate to. Like for example, I was looking for a photographer to do my graduation photos, and I was looking at photographers and their personalities and their brands because I wanted to find someone that I could vibe with and I can get along with and I thought would understand me. And that's the same thing in PR with your clients. Clients want someone who will understand them and will get to know them and that they'll get along with and that they feel like will help them succeed and align with their goals. And doing this goes into determining your target audience for your personal brand, which I'll also talk about in a second. And a personal brand helps you establish your credibility as a professional and that you're trustworthy, because you want to show that you have credibility behind the skills that you're stating that you have, instead of them just being empty, like saying, oh, I'm so experienced in Adobe Creative Suite when you're really not, and all you know how to do is Canva, because someone might hire you based on that experience and saying you have Adobe Creative Suite experience, and then you get to the job and you wouldn't know what to do. That's just an example. That's not like a real life example for me or anything, but it's why you want to have your personal brand accurately represent you and not inflating any of your skills that you have. So now we're going to go into the steps and tips I have for creating your personal brand. So first is that you want to figure out who you are and what you want to do. And of course you might say, well, of course I know who I am. I'm so-and-so and I do this. Well, yeah, well, that might be true, but what you're doing here is laying out those characteristics about yourself so that you can align them to your professional goals. And this helps you create a strategic plan for your personal brand. Like when you're working on a PR campaign and you think strategically and you make a plan beforehand, you can do the same thing with your personal brand to make sure it fits with how you want yourself to appear. And some helpful questions that might be helpful for you to ask yourself and answer. And you can, if you want to get fancy with it, you can actually write down these answers or just know them in your head. I want to think about like what drives you in your career, what motivates you to do what you're doing. And how do you work best? Is there a specific environment that you work best in? Is there a specific industry you're passionate about? And what industries are you interested in? Like, let's say you get an opportunity to work in healthcare PR, but you can't stand that. And you really just want to work with lifestyle PR, like restaurants and travel and that kind of stuff. So it helps to know that about yourself beforehand and what you're willing to do and not do. And sometimes you might be willing to switch between industries like that. But sometimes if there's one like you really don't want, you really can't stand, you need to know that. You also want to identify what soft skills you have and what hard skills you have. And the soft skills can be those that you already have within yourself, like just characteristics of your person and who you are, or those that you've gained from working, like learning how to have better time management and working as a team. Or that could be that you have leadership skills and that's just something you already have. And then the hard skills, the things you've learned while in school or an internship and job experience you already have. So with figuring out who you are, you want to list out goals that you want to achieve in your career so that the characteristics about yourself can align with those. And those can be either short-term or long-term goals. Like if you're still in school, it can be, oh, I want to get an internship for this upcoming summer or whatever. You want to plan that earlier, of course. Or when I graduate, I want to get this job. And then, you know, in so many years, I want to be in this position and so on. Or it could even be so much as I'm doing a campaign in class and I want to succeed and meet our goals that we're creating. So I put here a marketing term that applies to your personal brand because it also applies to branding for a company, and that's your unique value proposition. And so this is a statement that you create that encompasses what you uniquely offer that no one else does. And it doesn't have to be something that you state publicly or publish on your LinkedIn or anything, but it can be the message, like the driving foundation that you build your personal brand around. And with your unique value proposition, that's where you focus on what makes you different from everyone else and not what makes you fit in. You want to consider both when building your personal brand, but your unique value proposition is what makes you you and what takes you out of the box from everyone else. So I mentioned on the last slide, you want to figure out your target audience. So I'm sure you'll know when creating a marketing or a PR campaign, one of the first things you do before you even start planning, strategies, tactics, anything like that, is determining your target audience, because you can't do anything without knowing who you're trying to reach. And you don't want to start promoting your personal brand without knowing your goals first and who you're going after. So you want to think about, are you looking for an internship, a full-time position post-grad, and what industries of PR are you looking into? So considering these questions will help you figure out your audience and how you can align your brand with them. So for me, I'm graduating in a few weeks. So I would want my personal brand to show that I'm graduating soon and I'm motivated and looking for a full-time position. And I wouldn't want it to appear as if I'm a sophomore who's still starting out in my early PR classes. So you want to make yourself seem like you're at the stage of your career that you're in, essentially. And so you want to align your professional social media platforms and your personal website if you have one. So you want to make sure your brand is cohesive between all of your accounts. Like in a PR campaign, you want all of your collateral to be cohesive, whatever platform it's on. And here I can best explain this by showing by example. So I'm going to show you all my LinkedIn and my personal website, because that's the best way I can explain how to make it cohesive. Okay. Where's it going? Can y'all see anything right now? Because I can't show that I'm showing anything.
I just have a black screen right now, Ashlyn.
Oh, that's great. Okay, well, I had everything up and that presentation was also on a Chrome tab that seems to not exist anymore. That's fun. Oh wait, I found it. Oh, it was just on full screen. Okay, never mind. So can y'all see this now? I hope so. Okay.
Yep, can see it
Well,
now.
Okay, sweet. Well, here's my LinkedIn. So I have my headshot, of course, of me. This is before I had things. And on my personal website, which I'll show after this, I have that same headshot on there. So it's cohesive between the two. I have my main titles of myself in my description. The description I have on here is not, this one needs to be reworked, honestly, this one, but I have a longer form description on my website that also has these same terms, so it makes sense between the two. And then I have my job experience down here and all of the descriptors between those. And I have a PDF copy of my resume that's downloadable on my personal website, so they can access these there, but in a prettier format. And of course, my education will also be on my website and those kinds of things. But here's how I present myself. So my website is where I can have more fun with it, and it's not subject to the LinkedIn requirements. So have my name up top in here, and here's a quick little thing. This is who I am. This is what I'm doing. I'm a PR marketing professional, and I want to work in an agency setting. And then here, this is an image of Midtown Atlanta, and this was strategic because when I made this, well, this was before COVID, so everyone was in person, but it still applies. But a lot of the PR agencies in Atlanta are in Midtown. So I wanted to put that there that, hey, I know where y'all are and I'm ready to be there too. So here's my about section. So see, I have the same headshot here and this longer description. I have this first paragraph is my LinkedIn description, and then I go into a quicker summary of who I am, my experience, and what it's helped me do, kind of how I would answer the tell me about yourself thing in a job interview. And here's where I have my resume that has all of my descriptions of my positions here. And I like this feature. This is like a little plugin for Wix. I had to do a whole different setting thing, but it's a little plugin where they can download it here in whatever format they want instead of it just being an image. Because before I found this, it was an image and I linked the image to a Google Doc links, or yeah, a PDF version of a Google Doc link, and it just didn't look good. But this is much better, cleaner, and more professional. And then here's an extension of my connection between LinkedIn and here. And this is shows I have portfolios here so they can see my experience as well. So these aren't showing up. I have these same little PDF plugins here, but it's branding myself that I have experience and I've done this before. You can see some examples here. And if you want some more that I can send directly to you, great, there you go. And I also have some graphics here that I've done. So that's just a little example of how I brand myself and make it cohesive between platforms. And if you happen to have like a professional Twitter or a professional Instagram, you want to consider those too when aligning your brand between platforms. I do not. I had a professional Twitter I made for a social media class, but I don't use it. I just don't like Twitter, but that's me. If I ever need to use it again, I will. And then I keep my Instagram personal. I may make a professional one sometime if I feel like I need to, but I haven't needed to yet. And with social media, of course, you want to be conscious of what you publicly post and how that aligns with your professional brand, because people will search you, for college students. If you have a picture of you partying on the weekends, you may want to make that post private for friends and family and not searchable by potential employers, because if the company culture is not like that, they may not like you as a candidate for a position. So it's important to consider everything you're posting online. So another thing for your personal brand, you want to create value with yourself and thought leadership. So you want to add value to the professional space. Like, you're not just a person here on the wall, you're here in the professional community and you're an active part of it. And a good way to do this is post on LinkedIn about current topics in the industry and bring your viewpoint into it. Or if someone on LinkedIn that you follow posts something like an article or their opinion on something, commenting on that post and engaging with it and adding your opinion too, and just showing that you're an active member and that you have your own thoughts on current topics and what's going on. And this helps add to your credibility as a professional that I talked about before with your brand, and that you know what you're talking about. And you don't just have empty skills that you're pretending you have when you really don't. And it shows that you're paying attention and that you want to be a part of the conversation and not just a bystander on the side, and that you are involved and you want to be involved. So the last tip that I have is to treasure your connections, treat them with care. You love them. You love your professional connections. And it's one of the most important things in the professional world. And I'll put it here in the perspective of LinkedIn, like I've been doing with a few things, is making connections. And when you're making connections on LinkedIn, it's more beneficial to you to connect with those that are in similar fields instead of just connecting with everyone all you see willy-nilly to get that coveted 500 plus connections level that you see on people's profiles. So currently I have, it was like 221 connections, but those are strategic and they're all people in the PR, marketing, and media fields, minus my dad. And I've had some random connection requests come in that are just weird and don't align with me, and I've ignored them, and that's completely okay. It's okay to ignore connection requests. You don't have to connect with everyone because you want to think strategically and think how that connection could benefit you and how you can benefit them. It's like a mutually beneficial relationship, like PR is. That's what we manage. So like I said, you want to treasure them. You want to keep in contact with your connections and create conversations. And those conversations don't always have to be you asking for something, and they shouldn't be. They shouldn't always be you wanting something from them. You can maybe ask them to have coffee sometime, like virtually or in person, and just maybe pick their brain about something or learn about their career, who they are, and creating a relationship outside of, well, what can they do for me? It's having a more professional, friendly relationship. And that may make them more inclined in the future to give you opportunities that are available or make them known to you. And your connections, when they post something, whether it be an accomplishment from them or like a thought leadership post, you want to interact with them. Even just a like or the celebrate reaction can go a long way to show that you're there and you're listening and you care about what they're doing. And a comment is even better, like someone gets a new position. Oh, congratulations, so-and-so. I know you're going to do amazing in this. You're such an awesome leader, something like that. And regarding your personal brand, this makes you seem like a professional that cares about other professionals and wants to be a part of the community. I know I've stressed that a few times, but I think it's super important to be a part of the professional community, and you're not just there for you. You don't just care about you, you care about others in the space too, and just being an active member. So those are my tips that I have for creating a personal brand. And does anyone have any questions?
So this ended up kind of becoming an interview format with our various leaders with PRSA chapters. So I actually want to turn this into kind of like an interview session with y'all, because we have a few minutes until PRSA Georgia is expected to join the conversation. So what I wanted to ask our leaders from Kennesaw PRSA, UGA, PRSA, and Georgia Southern PRSA is, let's start off first with, has there been a really good experience that you have had with the job search situation that maybe something turned out better than you expected it to?
Real quick, Amanda, I'm trying to stop sharing my screen, but the option to do so went away.
Yeah, let me go ahead and stop that for you.
Thank you so much.
You are very welcome.
I can go ahead and start it off. I think one thing that I've found is, I know it's really, really scary. I'm always terrified to message alumni and be like, hi, can I please talk to you about what you do? But I recently just called someone randomly. She emailed me at the last second and I was in class and she was like, can you talk at 1? And I was like, absolutely. And I hiked up the hill, got home, like dressed and everything. And she was really nice. She was very helpful. She gave me a lot of great tips for my interview with that company. And I think that is like something that you don't really expect. Like you're told that alumni are really willing to help you, but sometimes it can seem really scary. And I've had really amazing experiences with all of the alumni I've reached out to. So to anybody listening, I really encourage you to do that.
Yeah. And also to build off of that, like your PRSSA speakers, at least for us, like I have reached out to all of them, thanked them for being at our meetings, and then also connected with them on LinkedIn. And then, if I'm further interested in the company, I'll reach out to them and message them. But like she was saying, they are so willing to help out and they are so gracious. And like, just the fact that, they speak at our meetings and we are looking up to them, they think that's like such a great thing. And so just reciprocate that, I guess.
Yeah. And use your relationships with your professors too. I've had one of my professors sent my resume and cover letter into an agency and I didn't know it until I got the email back offering an interview, so you don't get that unless you really foster those relationships with your professors, like genuine relationships that build over time and they can really help you out. So yeah, just build those connections whenever you have the chance. And I think that will do you well for getting that job. So.
And speaking about the classroom too, like all your projects that you do, all the papers that you create, that is like tangible material that you can submit for an application. So make sure you're going like above and beyond, getting your critiques where you need them, and following up with your teacher, like, how can I make this better? Should I submit this to an employer? Because like Sarah was saying, your teachers really do care and they're going to want to see you in the workplace. They want you to get a career. So all of those elements that you use in the classroom are stepping or tools to be used for your application.
Fantastic. Georgia Southern, you want to join in on that question? They may be having some tech. There we go.
Sorry about that. And it's still okay. Sorry, I still had it facing them.
So any type of advice with the job search where you or any of your chapter members had a really positive experience, maybe something that you tried that was different, went better than you expected?
Yeah, so I think for me, it was getting an internship. So I did a previous internship for class credit and it didn't really lead to anything. So I decided to do an additional one just to get that extra experience. And this one has been like above the moon. It's been awesome. And they actually just offered me a position last week. And so, yay, that one worked out. And so I think the biggest advice would be, even if it's not required, go out and search for that extra opportunity and do what you can, make those connections, because even if the one person isn't offering you a job, they might know somebody who is, and so they can put you in contact with that person.
Terrific. Any other Georgia PRSSA members want to jump in there?
Y'all have anything? No?
Oh, okay.
Mouths are full with pizza.
I completely get that. Ashlyn, do you have any stories that you'd like to share?
Yeah, so I guess mine would be, if you happen to have multiple interviews, paying attention to the differences between the culture and like the energy of the person you're interviewing with during the interview. I was interviewing for internships last spring for last summer, and I had 2 interviews for 2 different agencies. And I definitely noticed between the 2 which one I liked more. So I thought in my head, if I happened to get offered both, I knew which one I would choose, because the company I ended up interning with is the one I wanted. It's Melissa Libby and Associates in Atlanta. And there were 3 team members on the call interviewing me. And it was just such an amazing conversation, like how you would want an interview to be conversational. It's conversational in the best way. And they were just so excited and happy and energized, and our energies meshed and we got along well. And then with the other agency, it was one person interviewing me and they were just kind of dry and had really low energy. And so it was really hard to match that and have high energy, which I tried my best, but there wasn't a lot of engagement there on their end, and it felt kind of weird. But just paying attention to the difference between culture and the people you might be working with, is what I'd say.
Fantastic. So Ashlyn, I love that you mentioned it, and I think each of our presentations mentioned it, using LinkedIn. It's a phenomenal resource, and it really goes beyond just providing another place to put your resume. If you use it strategically, it can be a great networking tool and also a fantastic way to build your personal brand as well. So I know our presenters from UGA had mentioned using your assignments. There's actually a wonderful feature that's on LinkedIn. It's actually called LinkedIn Articles, where you can take things that you have written into class in your classes, adapt that and adapt those to be articles that are on LinkedIn. Show your expertise in an area. Go beyond just doing a post, because what LinkedIn articles can do is get you onto LinkedIn Pulse, which is a publishing arm of LinkedIn, and can get you hooked up with new followers on LinkedIn as well. When it comes to social media, one thing that I would recommend to you all is don't have personal and professional networks. A lot of what employers want to see is you, and that's going to encompass your professional life as well as aspects of your personal life. So one of the things that I always teach my students in social media classes is what I call an 80-20 rule. So 80% of your social media should be the social aspect, bringing in your personal life, your personal interests, connecting with others. And then 20% of that should be selling. So showing your expertise in a particular area. If you had a major accomplishment, post about it. There's nothing wrong with the humble brag, as long as it stays the humble brag. Also, tagging people. So let me show you a quick example of something that I did on LinkedIn. Oh, well, this is interesting. I'm getting a big exclamation point sign. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to share. That is weird. Okay. Well, it's not going to work. But what I can do is show you another example that you all can see with Adobe Express. So how many of y'all have actually used Adobe Express? It was formerly known as Adobe Spark. None of you. Oh my gosh, you've got to try this. Adobe Express, it has a lot of fantastic features to it. You can create graphics for social media posts. You can create videos. One of the features that I really love in Adobe Express is actually using the web page feature, because what it allows you to do is to create a very specific web page that you don't have to pay for hosting for it. So when we talk about personal branding, one of the things I recently did is I was a candidate for a major education association for their association-wide teaching committee. And it was competitive, that there were multiple people running for positions, and I wanted to do something different because everybody has this form that they fill out, and there's a publication that comes out, and everybody has these really dry bios about themselves. And major accomplishments, where you've published, where you've been teaching, any awards you've got. Yeah, that's great. I wanted to tell a story about myself. So what I did is I actually went to Adobe Express and created a specific web page for my candidacy and shared my story of why I wanted this position. Not that I would just be a great fit for it. All of our candidates were equally qualified to sit on this committee, but what made me stand apart? So that's the story that I told, why teaching was so important to me, how I brought that into what I do at Kennesaw State University, including advising our Prsa chapter. I talked about relationships that I had built with industry partners that enhanced my ability to teach. And this became story sharing. And just for this particular election, I ended up getting more than 300 views just on that webpage. And I just found out yesterday I was elected. And I think part of that was I was doing more than just bragging about myself. I was opening up and sharing who I was and letting people be able to connect with that. Why am I mentioning that to you? Let yourself have that vulnerability in your social media channels, whether it be Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, but especially Twitter. Do not discount Twitter because Twitter is used by the industry. And we've probably learned this in our PR classes. You need to go where your audience is. And if you're looking to reach an audience of industry professionals, Twitter is a good place to do that because there's a lot of information sharing that goes on that particular network. So if you're not using it now, at least follow it. Start following people that are leaders in the industry, learn what they're posting, and interact with them. You never know where that's going to lead. I kid you not. One of my friends teaches at the University of Louisville. She's been following The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, and Ryan Reynolds for years because of the connection she made with them on Twitter. She got Ryan Reynolds to actually guest lecture for her class. So don't be afraid to do those kind of reach outs. Respond to people, like their stuff, retweet them. It'll get your name in front of them. And over time, that will actually pay off. How many of you all have taken Myers-Briggs Test? Okay, awesome. So would you mind sharing what's your Myers-Briggs type? Ashlyn, we'll start with you and then we'll go over to UGA.
I'm an ENFJ.
Okay, so what does that mean?
I have screenshots on my phone. I can go find it for you. I know it's like the protagonist is what one website says. And I think that's good because one of the careers it says to go into is PR. I was like, oh, well, that's great. Hold on, I'm finding it. So each, they're born leaders. That's great. Their passion and charisma allow them to inspire others, not just in their careers, but in every arena of their lives, including their relationships. Few things bring protagonists a deeper sense of joy and fulfillment than guiding friends and loved ones to grow in their best selves. That's just a little snippet, but.
Fantastic. So UGA, what's your Myers-Briggs types?
Sarah and I just discovered that we're both INFJs.
So
Oh, that's
exciting.
fantastic.
Taylor's still figuring it out.
I'm still figuring it out. I've taken it, but it's been a long
Yeah.
time.
I think
so
she might
can't-
be an E.
maybe an
I'm not sure.
ENFJ, but
Yeah.
I'm not confident. I could see myself being an ENFJ though.
Georgia Southern, Emily, have you taken Myers-Briggs before?
I've actually never taken that quiz, so I don't know what I am.
Okay. Well, tell you what, I am posting a link in the chat right now. It's actually from the Myers-Briggs organization. I believe that there is a tab that you can actually take the test. I'm not sure through that organization if it's paid or not, but if you do a search for free Myers-Briggs, you might be able to find some tests that they may not be exactly the same, but it can give you some indication on your Myers-Briggs type. There's also some really great ones out there that are similar, but they test different things. So StrengthsFinder is one that tests your work style. So for me, I integrate that into my class when forming teams for projects. So instead of just people choosing who they want to work with, who they think they would have a good time with, part of the reason I put students together is because they are bringing something different to the table when working on projects. So if you have a group of 4 people that are all strategists, but they're really low on the creativity side, you're going to be lacking something in the final product. But if you have strategists, if you have timekeepers, if you have creators, if you have cheerleaders, what they call the woo, in StrengthsFinder, then you have a nice balance in the teams to be able to work collaboratively together instead of just focusing on one strength within the group. And these are things that you can talk about in an interview. I am an INTP, which is a little bit unusual, but that I believe that is the archetype that is the entrepreneur, which ironically enough, I owned a chocolate business for almost a decade before I went into teaching. So there's definitely a level of accuracy. Not going to say that it's always right, but think of those different letters. It's a sliding scale. It's not just a case of you're an introvert or an extrovert. You usually fall somewhere on the scale. So I think we are just about ready to have PRSA Georgia join the conversation. They are going to discuss how PRSA Georgia can help you launch your career in the PR industry. So I am going to hand this off to Lisa Tilt, who is our president of PRSA Georgia. She's a fantastic person to add to your networks. Go ahead, Lisa.
Hi, Amanda. I love talking about Myers-Briggs or hearing you guys talk about that because I think that's what I did early in my career, which is now spanning 30 plus years. But I'm an ESFJ. I think that's what that was. So what a great conversation. It's also important, right? Not just for yourself to understand where you fit into the world, but how you communicate within the different teams, the different work styles, and all of that stuff. So thank you for doing all of this. Thank you for putting it together. Thanks for all of you guys. I think we've got what, Kennesaw State, UGA, and Georgia Southern represented. Yeah, great. So hi, everybody. I wish we could do this in person. I hope to see you guys in person at some point. Throughout the year, as we kind of open up our doors to be in person as well as virtual, this whole hybrid thing is important. But so as Amanda said, my name is Lisa Tilt. It is my true honor to be the 2022 president of PRSA Georgia. I've been a longtime member and finding sort of my calling to serve has been a focus on the PR industry, of which I've made a very, very long career out of, and I love it. I started my company 15 years ago, Full Tilt Consulting. We're really marketing communications firm based on the principles of public relations and communication first. So that is also my true passion, and leading a group of tremendous professionals. So we know that it's an exciting time for you guys. It's sort of after that spring break time and kind of rolling into the end of the year. But I know, are all of you guys seniors? I think so. Is that right? Okay. So, wow. So I could say congratulations, you're almost done. I know we're doing, yeah, exactly, Ashley. We're having some great interviews right now for our summer internship program. And, it's just so exciting to see folks that are coming out of college and the passion and the energy that's there. And it's so important. So congratulations. I have to imagine that you have found programs like this helpful in mapping out your career and what that might look like. So congratulations for even participating in something like this. It really shows that you're looking for connections to make and pathways in order to get your career started in a very strong way. Let's see. You've got a lot of big decisions coming up in the next few months, weeks, years, and all of that. And now's the wonderful time for exploration, and whether it's this industry, tangentially in marketing, and there's so many opportunities for you. So I encourage you to keep your mind open to the possibilities. And hopefully one of those possibilities is joining PRSA Georgia. We have such a strong young professionals group. That has been one of the things that I say keeps me young, as we've got young board members. We have young leaders who are really serving the chapter in amazing ways and making lifelong professional contacts. And I can't overemphasize that. So if you choose to get involved, we hope to see you. We hope that you do. Make it your own. Join one of this, particularly the young professionals group. And Amanda's such a great, leader and Sherpa through the process for our young professionals. But reach out and have conversations and ask folks to coffee, which you can do now again, and really take advantage of the connectedness that PRSA Georgia offers. We are the second largest chapter in the country. They call us a super chapter. I found as I've rolled into the position of president and really had a connection to national, the PRSA Georgia is seen as a whole different level of organization. And I knew that in theory, and now I'm getting to experience it. And so being part of PRSA Georgia has tremendous cachet, even if you aspire to do something on the national level. So that's also something to remember. So we may be the second largest, but we're absolutely the most involved chapter. And so national likes to look at us to even pilot programs with them, everything like that. We were the first visit for the new CEO of PRSA National. She flew to Atlanta, met in my office, and we had a wonderful afternoon of conversation. And so that's, I think, also important for you guys to know kind of where we stand on the national level. Our chapter itself, our members represent such a broad swath of members that you can connect with. So agency folks, nonprofit, education, higher ed, nonprofit, corporate, and all areas of, and we are a statewide chapter. So in all areas of the state, certainly, a large majority is in Atlanta, but we're continuing our outreach throughout the state too. And that helps with virtual programming as well. As I mentioned, a very active young professionals group who have made their way through their careers through PRSA Georgia. I've seen it happen. I've hired them. Really, these are the folks that are the cream of the crop in Atlanta. So I happy to connect with you again. Thank you for joining us. I am going to pass it along. Karen Caro sits on our board and she leads up our membership committee. Marcy, gosh, we go way back as well. And she is also working on the membership committee, incredibly active volunteer as well. So I will toss it to you guys to kind of share other information.
Thanks, Lisa.
Unmuting, sorry.
I know.
Hi, everybody. As Lisa said, thank you so much for that welcome and introduction. And thank you for Amanda and all the universities putting this program together today and for having us to come speak at the end. I'm Karen Caro and I have Marcy Davis here with me as well. We represent the membership committee and I'm going to attempt to share my screen. So let's see if I can make this work. Forgive me for being a novice. Okay, do you all see the deck?
You got it.
Perhaps, okay. So do you see the next slide that says moving from PRSA to PRSA membership? Yes, okay, great. So it's really easy to do. You can convert your membership. There is a QR code on the screen here that will take you to the national membership page. It's just $60 in national dues and then $90 in the Georgia chapter dues to convert your membership from PRSSA over to PRSA. And that is effective for the first 2 years. You're a member of PRSA, so I think it's over $200 in savings to go ahead and do that. So I just wanted to make sure everybody is aware of that. And then benefits of your membership for PRSA. I'm so sorry. I'm such a novice at this. I cannot tell what you can see right now, but we have professional development opportunities. You see all the list or just one item?
All of them.
Oh, okay. Professional development. So as we have, varying programs throughout the month, both virtual and getting back to doing some professional development events in person. To me, that is the biggest benefit to me for membership is having access to just all sorts of different opportunities to continue learning once you're out of college, because that opportunity doesn't come along often to kind of keep up with all the new developments in your career. Networking. As Lisa said, meeting so many different people, like building your network is such an important thing when you're right out of college. So this is the group to do it. You meet people of all different levels and experiences and that can help you get your next job. There are so many people that have networked their way through PRSA to get their first job or subsequent jobs and have really kind of risen the ranks because of their connections that they've made through PRSA. Annual conference, we just had that last month. Hopefully some of you were there. I know some of you were there. I recognize Ashlyn that was there. And that is a great way, again, to kind of keep your learning going once you're out of college. As Lisa said, the Young Professionals Special Interest Group, such an active and engaging group with PRSA. And, they have a lot of networking events and professional development events that are specific to people of a certain age group. And then the Career Center, there are two QR codes on that page, Nationals Career Center and PRSA Georgia's Career Center. You should go check out both of them because they both offer different things, but a lot of them still based in Georgia. The PRSA Georgia Career Center is very active. There's jobs going up there every week and internships as well. So click on that link or that QR code, check it out, but bookmark it and go back there because there are new things being posted all the time. And when you convert your membership to PRSA Georgia, you'll get a newsletter that also has all those job opportunities available in them as well. And then when you join, serve on a committee. As Lisa said, it is the best way to get plugged into what's going on. This is a list of all the different committees that you can be a part of. I think I've been on probably half of them. Marcy's done the other half.
Been a few. Mhm.
Lisa's done, I think, all of them as well. And that's so it's a great way to again meet people and keep your learning going. And I've find a lot of people, and Marcy, I know you can speak to this, about kind of doing things in your volunteer work that you're not doing in your day job. You want to talk about that for a sec?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. So I work at I'm in a very non-traditional role for a communicator. I work at it's a large engineering firm. They do a lot more than just that, though. So it's a big global firm, but their focus is certainly not marketing or communications. And so being part of PRSA Georgia has really helped me learn other skills that I'm not necessarily going to get on the job or, get through specialized training or anything like that. It's just this opportunity to gain that real world experience. And then I've actually taken it and used it directly with clients that I work with. And, it's been a really great thing. And there's just a place you can plug in all of them. And one other point, I know we talked about just join a committee, but I'll tell you another great thing that I've gotten to do. And I think Karen's done it as well. And I'm sure probably Lisa as well, as serving as a judge. When you get to the awards part, when we judge other chapters, whatever their annual PR awards are, serving as a judge is a great way to see what other folks are doing and learn just that whole process, and for strategizing and researching and planning and all of that. So that has been a real help to me as well professionally. So that's another great way to get involved. And but yeah, it's just been a really it's been just a key part of my career and my development. I came into PR from journalism, so I think I started out on the very high end of young professional, or maybe I was just past it when I joined PRSA, but it was a good way to transition out of another career into the PR world as well.
So Victoria Stanton is our chapter administrator. I'm not sure if she's on. I think she had her daughter's birthday today, so she was going to try and make it if she could, but she is really the person that can help you with any questions that you have. She's her contact information is there. She's chapter admin at prsageorgia.org. So shoot her a note and let her know what questions you have. And she will be the person who can help you with all of that. And of course, myself, Marcy, Amanda, Lisa, good resources for you as well. So I think that's about all I have. And I'm going to try and figure out how to unshare.
Don't even worry about it, Karen. I got you covered.
Oh, thank you.
She baited you.
I was telling Marcy, I've been in person for 2 years. So like I am very low end on the Zoom. I usually just join and listen. So thanks for bearing with me.
You did good. Did good.
Thank you so much to our representatives from PRSA Georgia to talk about how this can benefit graduating seniors as well as young professionals who want to get their first steps into the PR industry. I do want to thank our PRSSA chapters from Georgia Southern, UGA, and Kennesaw State University for sharing their time with all PRSSA chapters. And as the co-chair for PRSA Georgia's College Relations Committee, I just want to let you know at other chapters, if there's anything that you would like to do to collaborate with other PRSSA chapters, if you would like to get more involved with PRSA Georgia, please feel free to send me an email, which is aweed2@kennesaw.edu. We hope to offer more of these collaborative chats with our chapters in the future. If you have an idea for a topic, or if you'd like to host one, please let me know and we will get that scheduled for the next school year starting in fall of 2022. Thanks so much for your time and spending it with us. And we look forward to seeing you again soon.